guys, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. I make weekly videos all about books, book recommendations, writing and the publishing world, so please subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Now, in today's video I'm going to do my recent reads, so the wrap up of the most recent books I've read. I think I have about 10 books to talk about today, ranging from fantasy, non-fiction, contemporary, literary fiction, all across the board, so let's just jump straight into it. So we will start with my least favorite and then end with my most favorite book that I've read recently. So my least favorite book that I've read recently, this should come as no surprise if you've seen my I read Twilight as an adult video. That is Twilight. I gave this 1 star. That is the lowest you can rate a book on Goodreads because honestly, okay, it deserves 1 star. It deserves 1 star. There was some good bits in here. Just go watch that video because I go in a lot more depth about what I thought about this book. It is a reading vlog and a review, and I have a breakdown pretty much reading this book. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail here. I did not like this book. I would not recommend it. Let's move on. The next book is Isla and Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins, and I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Now, this is the 3rd book in the Anna and the French Kiss trilogy, although they're like standalones, but they connect with each other, but you don't have to read them in order. I have read them in order. I have read all 3 of them now, and this was my least favorite of all of them. Obviously, I gave it 2 stars. I did not really like this book very much. I think both Anna and the French Kiss and Lola and the Boy Next Door are much better. Lola is my personal favorite of the 3. This one was very, very disappointing. I think it was just a bit cringy and a bit too much for me. Like the sort of obsession with the love interest and Isla having this crush on him for such a long time, and oh, you know what, he's actually had a crush on her for an equally long time, but none of them talked to each other and none of them knew this, and then they instantly fall in love, so it's kind of an insta-love. Spoiler alert! If you want to read this book and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm probably gonna spoil a little bit just because I have feelings about this. It's also kind of this whole Isla is such a special snowflake and like no other girl out there, even though she is, but why is she so special? And again, I feel like she doesn't really have a personality of her own, and her only interest is the love interest in the story, which actually was a much more interesting character than her, and actually her best friend was a more interesting character than Isla. My favorite part was when they went to Spain, to Barcelona, and we actually got to see a bit of them traveling. That was fun. The rest, not so much. Didn't really enjoy it. The next book is a non-fiction book that I listened to on audiobook, and that is The Power of Habit. Now, this is of course kind of a self-help book about how to form habits and how important habits are to increase your productivity. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars just because it was a bit different than what I expected. I think I expected more actual tips on how to create habits, but it was a lot of stories of how habits affected other people and affected history and society, which were all very interesting, but it was about 90% that, and then quickly at the end he kind of went over a resume of, you know, what we can learn from all of those instances and what we can apply to our day-to-day life in order to form habits, healthy habits, in order to increase our productivity. It was a very interesting book and I would recommend it if you're interested in this kind of topic and how to form healthy habits, but yeah, it was just a bit different than what I expected. Next is a YA contemporary. This is This Adventure Ends by Emma Mills, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really love this. This is the first Emma Mills book I've ever read, and I've always wanted to read her because if you don't know, she's like an OG YouTuber. Like, I used to watch her back in the day, and she started coming out with books, and I've always wanted to read some of her books, and this is the first one I picked up, and I loved it. I love books about friendships. Like, this is something I write about as well. I'm not so much I don't like writing romantic relationships that much, but I love writing friendships, and so she's right up my alley in that regard, and this was really good. I really liked this. So in this novel we follow Sloane, who is moving again to a new town, and she kind of has to make new friends all over again, and she stumbles upon this group of friends who have a bunch of history together and a bunch of banter and strange relationships, and so she's kind of trying to navigate this new friend group and, you know, find her own place inside the group. And then it also follows her quest at tracking down this painting that the mom of one of her new friends painted. She was a very famous painter, but unfortunately she passed away, and this painting was given away accidentally, and it's very, very important to one of the guys in this friend group, and so Sloane is trying to track this painting down throughout the country. I really like this. I love the dialogue. It's very realistic, and it's just, I love stories about friendships, honestly. I just wish there were more and there was less focus on romance and love interest, because yeah, I write that, by the way, so you know, stay tuned for my future books whenever those will be published, because I write a lot of friendships, and I love friendships in books. And I really want to read all of her books now, because I think she's an author that I will really, really like all of her books. Next up, I have a general fiction novel. I think this also maybe falls into literary fiction. There's always a gray zone there, so I'm never really sure if it's literary or just general fiction. But this is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and I gave this 4.15 out of 5. This probably shouldn't be so specific. I liked it. Okay, I liked it a lot. So this book, oof, this was a lot. I don't even know where to begin with this book, honestly. So this book, we follow Eleanor Oliphant, who is very much an introvert. She likes spending time alone. She doesn't really fit in with anyone. She's about 30 years old, and, you know, she goes to work. She has a normal life, but she is very, very lonesome. And she is very happy in that loneliness. But things are not all as they seem. She has a very unique way of looking at the world and of looking at her own loneliness and her own acceptance of it. This novel is very easy to get into. Eleanor's voice is very unique and very engaging, but immediately you get the sense that there's something more there, there's something deeper behind her personality and why she is the way she is. And I'm not gonna spoil anything, because I think this is one of these books that you just have to experience for yourself, because it's a lot. I'll just say it's a lot. I loved it. I love finding out about Eleanor, and, you know, initially I was like, oh, you know what, I actually relate a little bit with her. But then as the story went on, I realized, oh, no. I'm just gonna read you one quote that I actually tabbed because I thought it was really beautiful. Some people, weak people, fear solitude. What they fail to understand is that there's something very liberating about it. Once you realize that you don't need anyone, you can take care of yourself. That's the thing. It's best just to take care of yourself. I really don't want to get much more into this book, because I think you should just read it. It is a bit heartbreaking, I'm not going to lie. And it's also very funny and lighthearted in other parts, but I loved it and I would totally recommend it. Alright, next up is another non-fiction book that I read on audiobook, and that is At Home by Bill Bryson. Now, I love Bill Bryson. I've read a few of his books now, and actually this one is one of my favorites. So it's all about the history of home life, and how we got to, you know, have different rooms for different purposes in our house, how it goes back to just general sort of habitats of early people, and also about, you know, salt and pepper and how we got to use spoons and forks and like everything you can imagine. But it mostly kind of goes through all of each room, like living room, bedroom, and how its purpose changed over time, and it goes into a lot of anecdotes. And I love this. This was so interesting. Like, I found myself a lot of times sort of going back and re-listening to certain parts because it was so interesting, and also like googling things that he was talking about because I wanted to see it. And it also mentions a lot about sort of Victorian England because he is British, so a lot of the stuff came to be during the Victorian era or thereabouts, so he talks a lot about that era as well, which is, I love listening to stuff about Victorian England. It's fascinating. So I really love this. So if you're interested in that kind of topic, and if you like non-fiction, if you like Bill Bryson, especially if you haven't read this book, read it. It's really good. Alright, and the next 4 books I'm only going to quickly talk about in this video because I have made or will make separate videos talking about all of these books because I just have a lot to say about each of them. First up is The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. I read this. This is The Last Wish. This is the short story collection that the first season of the show on Netflix follows, and yeah, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. The first season of the show follows this book almost to a T. At least a lot of the scenes that were, not every scene was adapted into the show, but a lot of them were, and it's basically almost word for word. So if you like the show, definitely read this. But I will film a separate video about this, so if that's already up, I will link it up here or down below if you want my in-depth thoughts about it. Then we have The Novice by Taran Matharo. This is the first book in the Summoner series. I also gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. It's one of my new favorites, sort of middle grade YA fantasy series. It reminds me so much of Harry Potter. It's great, but again, I will have a separate video all about this book. Then we have another YA contemporary. This is Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen, and I also gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Also loved it. Really fresh take on YA contemporary romance, especially. It's a very steamy YA contemporary romance, so if that sounds like something that you like to read, I would definitely recommend this. The writing in this was also really, really beautiful. And lastly, the last book I'm going to talk about in this video, and my favorite book that I read recently, is I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. I'm gonna make a separate video about this because I have so much to talk about this book. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just saying, just read this book. If you like YA contemporary, oh my gosh, read Alice Oseman. She is now my favorite YA contemporary author. It's crazy how similar our writing styles are, but also oh my gosh, I love her. I love this book. It's about this girl called Angel who is a massive fangirl of this boy band called The Ark, and then we follow Angel and we also follow Jimmy, who is a member of The Ark, and their lives kind of come together, and it's all about fandom culture and celebrity culture and friendship and romance and everything. It's funny. It's please watch my full review of this book because I do not have the time to talk about this now because I will just be here for 10 minutes just talking about this book. So if you want those 10 minutes, just find my review somewhere where I've linked it somewhere here. Alrighty, so those were the books that I've read recently. I'm just gonna put them here, back here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and do let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about today or if any of them sound like something you'd be really interested in. Of course, I will leave links to all of them down below from the Books Depository, where I get all of my books from. Also, let me know what have you read recently that you really loved, or maybe something that you really did not like that you've read recently. And once again, please make sure to check out the separate reviews of some of the books I mentioned in this video if you want more of my thoughts, spoiler-free, by the way. I'll try to keep everything spoiler-free as much as possible, but if you just want more thoughts on any of them that might sound interesting to you, you'll find links down in the description. Alright, so that was it for me today, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!